Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstrow of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
And thank you for joining us on your City Manager's Report right here on GovTV, your source for all of the latest and greatest news and updates here in the city of Oshkosh. I'm your host, Emily Springstrow, and I am joined, as always, by our City Manager, Mark Roloff. So welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, Emily.
So we're going to go ahead and dive into our hot topics for the first half of today's show, talk about some of the cool things that are going on here in Oshkosh, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll return with the review of the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. So, Mark, the first thing that we want to talk about here is National Police Week was this last week, and several different things going on throughout the week here to honor our police officers. One of those things being the Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony that took place over in the Police Department parking lot.
This is an annual event where we honor our fallen officers. It's been many decades since we've had a fallen officer here in Oshkosh, which is a great relief to all of us. But we also honor fallen officers within the state of Wisconsin for the past year, and unfortunately there were 3 such officers. So there were 6 roses in the wreath, 3 to honor our 3 fallen officers in Oshkosh's history and the 3 statewide. So it means a lot. I think it means a lot to the officers to honor those that fell before them, as well as everybody else to recognize the sacrifice that our officers are willing to put themselves on the line for every day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so really it's a very somber event, and it's like a Memorial Day for police officers. So you can see it's a great turnout. People really pay their respects, and it's just a chance to appreciate the huge commitment that our police officers give to their cities. Also, the honors dinner, first annual police honors dinner, happening over at the convention center, I believe, and that's to honor our current officers that we have and some big things that they've been doing.
Well, it is National Police Week, so we, even with the somber celebration, we also want to celebrate the successes and the great things that our officers do on a daily basis. So the honors dinner is actually at the hotel, but it was a great event where we recognize officers who've gone above and beyond the call of duty. And I would also say that it really helps represent the unsung heroes that we have in our police department. We're honoring a handful of officers, but every one of those officers would do the same thing if put in the same circumstances. It's just that the circumstances came upon those officers and they acted appropriately within their training and everything they've been taught, as well as their basic commitment to public service. So I have a wonderful time honoring all that our officers do. It's a great event, and it's a first annual one. Chief Smith felt it was necessary to do this, and I was very happy to be a participant in that.
Yes, and so Oshkosh Media did cover the Law Enforcement Memorial Ceremony and the Police Honors Dinner. So make sure you check out GovTV's schedule on oshkoshmedia.org, and you can check out the replays. Otherwise, check out our YouTube channel. It should be posted on there very soon as well. Relating to the police department here, they have recently put out a release about the IRS and a scam that's been going around. So there is a phone message, different things that people are doing they're posing as the IRS and making some kind of scary threats to people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, phone scams are just a way of life. I would certainly, follow the police department's advice. When something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right. And in this case, some of these, they're asking to request iTunes cards. I don't think the IRS is looking for iTunes cards. I don't think the I in IRS stands for iTunes. So, but the IRS is not going to be getting payments over the phone, ever. Mm-hmm. And there are appeals rights that people have. You are not going to be making a payment to the IRS over the phone. They're not going to be demanding payment over the phone. You're going to be getting a formal, documented acknowledgement if that's even happening. And chances are you're an upright citizen who pays their taxes. You know, you wouldn't get the call in the first place. You didn't mistakenly do something, and that's what this scam tries to do. Tries to confuse you and make you think that, oh, I'm an honest person, maybe I did something wrong. Nothing could be of the sort.
So they're really encouraging people to spread the word, especially for the older and elderly generation, for those people who might not catch the threat that's coming up here, and they tend to be the targeted people as well for scams like this.
And the solution is very simple. Just hang up, everybody. Just don't even worry about it, because they are a scam. And if it was real, they'll call you back. And the reality is they'll send you something of a registered letter or something like that. They're not going to be calling you on the phone. So beware.
If it sounds shady, it probably is.
Right, and tell your neighbors about it too, because
Yes.
other people know. And that's why this has been out for quite a few days now with the police department. But the more you get it out there and the more we tell people, they'll be less likely to be sucked into a scam like this.
Definitely. So I encourage you to check out the Oshkosh Police Department's Facebook page. They have that release with all the information on there, as well as an example of what one of those phone calls might sound like. So check that out on the OPD website and Facebook page. Moving on in our hot topics, Mark, we want to talk about a recent update that the assessor's office has done, and that is the revaluation of properties. So maybe you can give us a little background. What exactly does a revaluation mean?
What we're really doing is what I like to refer to as reslicing the pie. There's a certain value of property in the city. Property taxes are obviously a major source of income for the city, but it needs to be done fairly, and it has to be in accordance with state statutes. So what we do is we reslice the pie to say what share of the property value is yours on your property. And this is done by doing a market analysis, looking at recent sales and things of that nature to determine the relative value of properties. Now, some people value may go up, others may go down. It all depends on how the market is for properties such as yourself. Location is certainly the biggest factor, but it's age of housing, condition of housing, how comparable sales have occurred. So the market, if ranch houses are a little more popular, then ranch houses may go up in value. It really depends on what's going on. So we're sending out notices of revaluation, and you have an opportunity to review that, and if you think it looks okay, then you don't need to do anything. If you're concerned, we have something that's called open book. And literally what that means is our books are open for you to look at and to take a look at not just your value, because we've already told you that, it's to look at everybody else's value, because you may know something about your house or about a comparable house that maybe we don't know about. And you have an opportunity to discuss that with our assessors, and they may be able to make some adjustment depending on that if you provide them some new information. But it's really a learning process for you, and then it gives you the basis to determine if you want to go any farther with either questioning or challenging your assessment, which you have every right to do.
Okay, so the open book will take place here at City Hall, over at the Oshkosh Public Library and the Oshkosh Senior Center. That will be available through June 12th, and then the board review will start hearings, I think,
That'll be in July.
12th. Yes, it's July 12th.
At the Senior Center and the library, it'll just be the book, so the information's there. If you do have a question, I'd encourage everybody to call the assessor's office to get that information, and they're happy to sit down with you and go over that. That will only happen over here in room 206 of City Hall in the assessor's office.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the update on that. Keep that in mind. June 12th is coming up pretty quickly here. We got about a month left, so be sure to be aware of that and check that out. Next thing we're going to talk about here, Mark, is some Memorial Day updates. I can't believe that Memorial Day is almost here already, but here on CMR, we do like to give you a little bit of a heads up on some of the city services that might be changing or, just updating their schedules for Memorial Day. So first one that we'll talk about, Go Transit will not be operating on Memorial Day. Their office will be closed. City Hall will also be closed, and there will also be no garbage or recycling collection. So if your collection is on Monday, it'll move to the next day, Tuesday, and then each day will move one day
Everybody
after.
gets bumped.
Yep.
So just one day, and so just hopefully look for your neighbors. Hopefully they're cooperating and getting that message. Otherwise, you lead and don't take out your garbage. But
Yes.
It just goes back one day, just like usual.
So keep that in mind. Be aware that the Memorial Day procession is taking place. So if you are driving around or have travel plans, be aware of that in the morning, as well as all of the wonderful services, reading of the names at South Park. There's a lot of really great things going on Memorial Day. So I encourage you to check out the Oshkosh Media Facebook page or website. We did have an Oshkosh Today segment that went over all of the really great things that you can do to honor those people who have given the ultimate sacrifice to serve our country. So that's our Memorial Day update. I know it's a lot, but it's great to keep all those things in mind.
It comes very quickly, and
It does.
spring is spring's almost over, in fact. But that's a good. It's also kind of the beginning of summer, I think, for a lot of folks with Memorial Day. So, and the events over at the cemetery and the parade are just wonderful events, great family events. So yeah, just check out YouTube and our Facebook pages, and you'll get all that information.
Definitely. So now it's that time of the show here on City Manager's Report where viewers are able to ask the city manager anything they want about things that are happening right here in Oshkosh. So let's take a look at our question this week. And the question this week, Mark, is what is going on with Lakeshore Municipal Golf Course? Is the golf course for sale?
Oh, we get a lot of questions like that.
A lot of questions,
First off, let's get the second question done first. Is the golf course for sale? No, the golf course isn't for sale. But certainly there's been a lot of talk and rumors and whatnot lately about what might be happening to Lakeshore. All we're doing right now is something that has been dwelling on me for a while, because I can tell you that we get inquiries all the time about Lakeshore Golf Course. It's a beautiful site, a beautiful facility, and we've had people that have been legitimately interested, but we've never been able to answer fundamental questions, even if it's not for sale, and certainly things about what's the property worth and things of that nature. Public property is very difficult to know what the value is. And then Lakeshore has some legitimate issues in terms of the property there, because a lot of it's fill over the years, and a lot of it's because it's along the lake. There's potential for a great deal of wetlands there. We know that there's some just by looking at them, but we don't have any of that information. So there's two things that I've asked staff to do, and one is to get a wetlands delineation done. And what that does is determines if there's any properties that are deemed not developable because of wetlands. And you see the ponds on the screen there. The ponds generally are wetlands of themselves. And we just want to know what more besides that, because it's not just the area where water exists all the time. It's other areas that can be considered wetlands.
Right.
And then there's also what's called a title search, and all that does is it scours the records of the property dating back, to when the city owned it, and determine if there's any limitations on the use of the site for something other than public recreation. I don't know all the details about how everything from Lakeshore was acquired, but if there are any restrictions, they would show up on a title report. And I've heard a lot of rumors, this is restricted and that restricted. Well, the truth is we don't really know that. So that's a lot of speculation. And if we get inquiries, then we're going to have this information. And if none of the rumors come to pass, then all we have is good information that we can use down the road. But meanwhile, Lakeshore is open. I encourage people to go. There's great programs there. They have a new program with kick golf where
so cool.
Kids can use soccer balls. They did a demo at the State of the City. So it really is a great place for the family. And if something's going to happen with Lakeshore, it's going to be a long, long process.
You'll know if it's happening.
You'll know it's happening. We'll be talking about
Yes.
it here. There'll be more questions with whether it's question mark or on the city's website. And it's okay people ask those questions, but don't get all worked up that something's happening that's not happening.
Yes.
We'll be talking about it should anybody express interest. And then it has to go through a whole process. It's public land, so the Plan Commission has to take a look at it. It's parkland, so the Parks Board has to take a look at it. We have to take a look at our long-range plans. Is it consistent with our master plan? All those types of things require public review and comment. And that just says nothing about the legacy of Lakeshore. There's a lot of emotional attachment.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen the posts that people have put up, stories about people have been golfing there with their family for 100 years, and those are important perspectives to provide into the process. So all that will be able to come into play if or when something like this takes place.
Yes. So currently, all's good, no worries. Go out and enjoy our golf course now that the weather is finally beautiful, and definitely check out the kick golf, whatever it is.
Kick golf, it's awesome.
So cool. It's really cool. So great question. That one was from Facebook. If you'd like to send a question to City Manager Mark Roloff, you can send it to us on Facebook as well, or if you use Twitter, contact us on @City of Oshkosh, or email it to us at question@ci.oshkosh.wi.us. So we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we will dive into the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, May 23rd. We'll be right back on City Manager's Report.
It is sad but true that for years, some people have been using storm drains to dispose of their wastes. Sanitary sewers take waste from bathrooms and kitchens and clean them up. But storm sewers do not treat or clean up anything passing through them. Everything that enters a storm drainage system is eventually discharged into a stream, river, lake, or bay in exactly the same form as it entered. One of the responsibilities of municipalities that operate storm sewer systems is to prevent what the EPA calls illicit discharges. Illicit discharges are any discharges of non-stormwater into or through the storm sewer. When illicit discharges enter surface waters, they can kill wildlife. They can suffocate plants and fish, destroy breeding and nesting areas. Never pour or dump anything down any storm drain.
Welcome back to City Manager's Report. Thanks again for joining us. Now we are going to take a look at the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. So Mark, the first thing that we want to discuss or just talk about here, I guess, is the introduction of some city staff. First one being John Zemer, and he is being promoted to Assistant Chief. So he's not a new city staff, but he's being promoted. It's awesome.
Old faces, new positions. I don't know if John would like to hear that. Chief Zemer has been with the department for a number of years. He was most recently a battalion chief in our department. And when Assistant Chief Jeff Shettle retired just a few weeks ago, we needed to look no further than just a couple cubicles down from the office where Chief Zemer was, and I think he's going to make a great assistant fire chief. The assistant fire chief does a lot of the administrative work for the chief, deals with a lot of personnel budget matters, and I think John's going to be a great addition for that.
Definitely. And so since John is moving to this position, someone had to take his old position, and that is Tim Hyman, who is our new battalion chief.
Right. He was Captain Hyman, now he's Chief Hyman. He was one of our captains and moving up. We've got a lot of new, bright, young people that are in our fire department ready to help lead the department into the future. And we've got a lot of turnover in our fire department. And a few years ago, every member of our management staff was eligible to retire. And we're filling those positions as they come along. So, Chief Zemer's moving up to take Chief Shettle's place. Chief Hyman is now moving in to take Chief Zemer's place. It has a little bumping effect, but it's going to be very important for us to make sure that we have that succession planning done for the future of our fire department.
Exactly. So congratulations to these two gentlemen, and thanks again to our fire department, as always, for doing a great job here in Oshkosh. Next thing we want to talk about, a presentation, and this is for the 2017 Acanthus Historic Preservation Awards. For those of us who don't know what that is, give us a little background on what the Acanthus Awards are.
Our Landmarks Commission likes to recognize groups or individuals who have done something to historically restore buildings of some significance. And we've done this for a number of years. This predates me by a good number of years. Shirley Maddox with our Landmarks Commission typically makes the presentations, but this is the building that ultimately became an award winner last year. This is the dealer socket property right there on North Main Street, the 500 block. And these are just examples of what can be done when people have wonderful vision for what you can do with an historic property. Yeah, it looks a little tired, but you do the right things, you help make sure the bones are still strong, and then do something with it. This was an old fur house back in its day, and now it's a high-tech company. So it's amazing
really
what you can do with these things. So you got to stay tuned for Tuesday, where this year's Acanthus Award winners will be announced. But they will recognize this type of quality, where you see a building that was looking pretty tired, to be honest with you. But the folks who did that, who redid it, Eric Hoopman, Chet Wiesenberg's the architect. Chet and Eric also did the beach building right next door to City Hall, so they're certainly committed to improving the building stock and restoring the building stock. So it's a wonderful award program. We always have it on the council agenda so that the public gets an idea of what these things are. But boy, you really transform these buildings
beautiful.
And make them something that they're just really honoring the community and just helping restore the downtown as well, which is a great thing.
Right, and I've spoken to Shirley about these awards, and she also noted it's not only actual housing and different buildings. It can also be a person who's done a great job, or a story, or something like that. So it has everything to do with history and preserving it here in Oshkosh. So it's a great thing. I definitely encourage everyone to tune in for that portion of the council meeting. Next up, license status updates. Packers Pub and Robbins, they are reviewing some inactive licenses. So what's going to happen with these ones?
The council has set a policy that if a business that has a liquor license is inactive for a year, that we bring it back to council, and then the council will invite those individuals to come in and explain themselves about what the status is, because it goes through ebbs and flows in terms of demand for these things. So the council wants to know that if we have a limited number of liquor licenses, that they get used properly. And when there's inactivity, they're not being used properly. So we had a couple at the last meeting, and now these two will come up, and then the council will decide if they think they're making satisfactory progress. They'll give them a little more time. If they're not making progress, the council reserves the right to hold a hearing to potentially take the licenses away. I don't recall them doing that very often, but they still want to make sure that these are being actively utilized.
Excellent. Moving on to the consent agenda, item number 10, we have the approval of agreement with NES Ecological Services for the implementation of stormwater detention basin vegetation maintenance program. So you hear a lot about stormwater detention basins. You don't really think much about the vegetation around it. What's going on there?
Once the pond gets built, I think people think, oh, that's it, it's done,
Right.
It's all well and good. But we have to maintain them, and in this case, we have to maintain the vegetation, because if it gets overgrown, then it's not holding as much water. The filtering part is great when you've got the plantings, but if it gets overgrown, it could damage the ability to clean the water or filter it properly. And then capacity-wise, you're just not getting as much bang for your buck. And this contract is for $116,000, so this isn't to be taken lightly, but all the new ponds we have, this group, NES Ecological Services, will go out there and just check and make sure it's operating okay, it's doing its job, and it's not overgrown. And if it is, then we will remove the excess vegetation so that it continues to serve its purpose.
Great. Well, thank you for the information behind that. And I have to say, it's not an episode of CMR without talking about stormwater, is it?
I guess that's true.
Even if it's doing the vegetation.
But we'll keep calling it City Manager's Report,
exactly,
not Stormwater
yes.
Report.
Continuing on in the consent agenda, item number 20, approval of a special event. Oshkosh Downtown Business Improvement District will be utilizing city streets for the Downtown Bid Holiday Parade on November 16th. Now, this sounds a little different than it usually does.
Right. Well, some people are probably wondering, why are we talking about a holiday parade
exactly.
in May? But the Chamber of Commerce for years had been running the holiday parade. The downtown bid has now assumed the responsibility for that, so they'll be taking it over. So it'll be downtown businesses, promoting downtown, which is probably a good thing. We always get a great turnout, and I think the bid felt that it was appropriate to keep this this staple of holiday events alive. It really kicks off the holiday season. So we wanted to thank the bid for continuing that tradition of a holiday parade, and just mark your calendars for November 16th, and we'll have a great event. I'm sure the bid will do a wonderful job.
Yes, we're already looking forward to it. Under new resolutions, Mark, 29 and 30 kind of related to each other here. 29 is the approval of a TIF district for the Granary. That's kind of a big deal. People haven't heard that word in a little while. So tell us what exactly is being done over at the Granary.
Well, the Granary is an old restaurant that was part. It was really successful during the heyday of the Pioneer Inn, and when the Pioneer closed, the Granary kind of fell on hard times after that. We're finding this with a lot of smaller, older historical buildings. We just talked about a couple of them with the Acanthus Awards. For those who know where the Granary is, I don't need to explain it, but for those who are new to town, Nebraska and West 6th Avenue is where it's located. This perspective gives you an idea where Sweetwater Motorsports is, as well as the dockside. It's right there off of South Main Street. Actually, there is a West 5th Avenue there, and that's part of what this project is. It's remodeling it. It's gonna be a combination of offices and restaurant this time around. But there's also some things that have to get done because it is a public street behind it. So there's a planned development to make sure that it works very well. But the incentives that the city has to encourage people to redo these buildings is very limited, and TIF financing is one of them. At the state level, they can get historic tax credits, and they work in combination with this. So that's what this is all about. You're going to hear about what they're planning to do with it, and eventually we'll provide some development incentive that gets paid for with the tax dollars that they pay in, and then that uses to help pay for the improvements, a portion of the improvements that are done there. And it really helps make the property more marketable, because somebody could have that office building out on Highway 41, but they wouldn't come downtown. This is a way to encourage people to reuse buildings in the downtown area.
And it's such a cool building, and we're really excited to see some action down there. So we're looking forward to more updates on future agendas on how this is all going. The last thing that we want to talk about under City Manager announcements and statements, you will be given an update on the State Street parking lot. So tell us what's going on over there by the Washington building.
This was just approved by the council at the last meeting. We're selling off a portion of the State Street lot, and the developers of the Washington building are going to be constructing some garages there. The reason that this took a while is because there's some old environmental contamination down there. And so technically they're leasing the property for us for a short time until it gets cleaned up. This is the consulting services agreement to start the environmental work. Then the developers will reimburse us and pay for those environmental review. Then the cleanup will take place. And then as the property generates tax income, a portion of that will go into the TIF district and get reimbursed back to the developer to reimburse them for reimbursing us.
In a roundabout way, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. We are just about out of time, Mark. So I thank you for joining us and giving some of the highlights of the upcoming council meeting.
It's always a pleasure.
Again, the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website at oshkoshmedia.org, or you can listen to it on 101.9 Oshkosh FM, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Make sure to like Oshkosh Media on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for all of your community and government programming and updates, or check out our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. And as always, don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, you can send it to us on Twitter, post it to our Facebook page, or email it to us at questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us. So as always, thank you so much again for joining us on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.